garbage disposal, energy and water supply systems in West Germany. He says the cost of turning the tide of past mistakes in his country is now enormous, but that our communities have the chance of choosing a better course of action.
You could learn from our disasters in many aspects. We discover now that the way we deal with garbage, the way we deal with sewage water, and the totally unawareness with air pollution has created so many problems and so deep problems that all the communities are in a very big crisis now.
Bernd also believes that we must all reduce the waste we produce, not just increase our capacity to dump it somewhere.
The first thing is, if you avoid the maximum of garbage, then you will avoid maximum of the problem. So what I hear in Newcastle, that they are going to put on bigger garbage bins, it's a very bad solution because people will go on creating more garbage instead of being more aware.
Was fishing with a companion from these rocks at Snapper Point. He decided to move further around the point to where he thought the fish were biting. Police say moments later he was swept into the sea. The man's companion raced to this emergency phone only to find that it had been vandalised. He then had to walk from here to Doyleson to the Big T Roadhouse to finally raise the alarm. Time wasted, which could have been spent launching a full-scale search for his missing mate. Police Central Coast rescue squads, the rescue helicopter and the police launch Doyle converged on the scene. The search made difficult by the strong winds and heavy seas. Today they were joined by Bulbit's mother and father. Police say there is little hope of finding the father of two alive. This isn't the first time that people have been washed from rocks from this part of Fraser Park. This memorial stands as a solemn reminder to the other people that have lost their lives here.
Eight-year-old Christy Robertson needs a life-saving heart operation. The experts won't do it in Australia, and so she has to travel overseas, but she needs help to get there.
Join Ray Deneen and Anna Manzoni for all the news tonight at 6.
It's believed the Matcham Post Office is the smallest in Australia. The 2.5 metre square structure was built many years ago on land owned by the postmistress Eileen Brooking, who has served in this role since 1937. Mrs Brooking believes in plain old-fashioned service.
We do things that probably don't suit Australia Post, like my customers who commute to Sydney come in and get their mail as they go past, which might be 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock or something, but that doesn't worry me because I never key the door. It's closed and they close it as they go out. And sometimes Sunday or Saturday, if they're working away, they can get their mail if they want to.
That practice will cease as of next week, when Australia Post closes down the Matcham Post Office and gives the job to a contractor. Australia Post says it can save $5,470 each year by closing the post office, but these are figures that Mrs Brooking and local residents dispute.
It seems that the $300 of Mrs Brooking receives monthly. I was told on quite good authority that Australia Post wastes every day, every minute. So,
Mrs Brooking's solution to the economic problem was to offer to work for free, but this fell on deaf ears.
Well, I offered to do it free when they said about they couldn't really, the economy was too much for them. And so I offered my services free.
So you're prepared to work for nothing?
Yes, why not? Because the inconvenience to the public is also going to be my inconvenience now. Whatever the mail or the parcels have to go, well, I've got to follow suit, haven't I?
How
To
important
many
is the
residents,
job?
the closing down of the post office
they
signals
didn't
the
say
end of an
anything,
era,
actually,
and they're
about the
prepared to
attitude
fight
of
it
residents.
How
by
many
still
people use
sending
the
their
post
mail to
office?
Mrs Brooking's
There's
office
about-
after it has
I think
officially
it's-
closed.
We come down here and collect our mail because we like the trip around. It's on the way to Gosford, and so I think it's quite an institution now. It's a pity to see it go.
It seems closures, at any rate, are good for business. With only 6 days remaining, the post office has received hundreds of letters from all over Australia from people wanting one final Matcham stamp.
The paediatric clinic is housed in Cessnock, the house which was bought by the Margaret Hospital and has been in use since the end of last year. The clinic was brought across from the Royal Newcastle Hospital as a result of an amalgamation of paediatric services in the area. It now takes in all paediatric outpatient services such as oncology, cystic fibrosis, general, neonatal and gastroenterology. However, last year it was realised that the house only provided limited waiting space, and a project was undertaken by the Newcastle Central Lions branch to raise the money needed for an extension. $14,000 was raised by them at an arts and crafts show last year, and work started at the house in March. The waiting room addition was completed, furnished, and today was officially handed over by the president of the Lions Central branch, Ron Boland, to Dr. Robert Evans, regional coordinator of paediatrics.
When the 12 women started the course in April, most of them had been unemployed for at least 12 months. After 12 weeks of learning the techniques of airbrushing, car detailing and silkscreen printing, many of them can now look forward to full-time employment.
Well, I've got a job. Got a job on Monday at Dorforster Hatfield at Warners Bay. It's a car detailer, so...
So it's been a worthwhile time for you?
Yep, it's been good.
Course coordinator Jim Kelly says that participants are learning useful skills in the car detailing and silkscreen printing industries. The majority of them will find work as car detailers and others will enter pre-apprenticeship courses. The most popular aspect is the airbrush painting and mural work. And judging by the major works on display today at the college's administration building, it's also an area of the course in which the students can claim success.
The stand-downs highlight a tough time for the Australian shipbuilding industry. Only months ago, Carrington Slipways had over 500 people on the payroll. But as the Sandra Marie bulk carrier project drew to completion, the number of employees dropped to 430. Now, another 53 are being retrenched. According to Managing Director Don Laverick, Carrington Slipways needs to cut costs by 7 to 10% if it hopes to compete with overseas companies, particularly those in Singapore. Already it has lost a number of valuable contracts to Singapore consortiums, including the Reef Link project at Townsville. As well, anticipated government contracts haven't happened.
The state government announced in March that they were about to order the 4th Manly ferry, and that's gone back, and we don't know what the result of that is from the Premier's conference in Canberra.
Mr Laverick says today's Arbitration Commission wage decision will not help the Slipways compete more effectively with overseas interests, but he doubts if more stand-downs
for
will be
survey motor
necessary.
launches. But our best market appears to be in the tourist industry. We're sweating on orders for 3 tourist vessels of different types at the moment. Our marketing director is in New Caledonia this week looking at a prospect there to try and finalise a contract there.
Richard Face made the announcement at Flaggy Creek Reserve at Cahaiba, which has become part of the Glenrock State Recreation Area. 150 hectares of land were gazetted by the state government on Friday. The 2 parcels of bush amount to less than half of the magnificent stretch of coastline between Merewether Heights and Dudley, but negotiations are now underway to obtain the rest of the land from the various owners. BHP, which owns a large parcel adjacent to Dudley Beach, has just agreed to a land swap. The C&O Bailey estate and the A Bailey estate at Merewether Heights will be bought by the state government. Negotiations with the Hunter District Water Board, which holds the Burwood Beach section, are expected to result in a handover of that land next year. The National Parks and Wildlife Service will become responsible for the park. Watching over the development of the reserve will be an advisory committee, which includes Labor's mayoral candidate John McNaughton and Water Board President Alan McLaughlin. Chairman of the committee will be Mr Face, who says he has been waiting for this day for 20 years. He says the SRA Gazettal will protect Glenrock from abuse and damage by rubbish dumpers and off-road vehicles.
One of the greatest problems, as you've already viewed yourself today, has been the desecration that's been done here, especially in more recent times, by recreational vehicles of various types, certainly by indiscriminate dumping. And generally the whole of the area, of course, over a period of time has had a lot of different uses, and as a consequence there is need for a great deal of rehabilitation to take place.
I'm Anna Manzoni. The Newcastle branch of the National Safety Council of Australia will be managing this new drug awareness program, which is due to be launched in Newcastle tonight.
Join Ray Deneen and Anna Manzoni for all the news tonight at 6.
One of the cheapest and most convenient forms of domestic heating is the kerosene fire, but according to a recent release from the National Safety Council of Australia, unless used with extreme caution, they're also one of the most dangerous. Problems arise when people use heaters that are in disrepair or neglect to label fuel supplies. Children like this one are particularly prone to accidents where kerosene heating is used. Their clothing gets caught in the safety grill, or they burn themselves on the hot metal cover plate. On some models, you can brew a cup of tea using the plate as a stove. Rex Smith, the fire inspector for the Newcastle and Central Coast regions, advises people that kerosene is an effective form of heating, but must be used with caution.
If you're not careful, kerosene heaters can flare. The important thing to remember, of course, is that it should be checked by an authorised serviceman, and if there are parts to be replaced, they should be genuine parts, not towel wicks, etc. that I've found being used.
He also warns that when spilled kerosene catches alight, it spreads very quickly, and worse for the occupants, kerosene fires particularly draw the oxygen from the air. Inspector Smith, how many fires started by kerosene heating do you expect to attend this winter?
I am quite certain during this winter period in this Newcastle Central Coast region we will have a number of fires, probably half a dozen fires this winter.
If you're using a kerosene appliance, the National Safety Council advises you get it checked by an authorised dealer early in the winter, and you observe the safety precautions outlined on the side panel of all approved heaters.
Macquarie United trailed 16 points to 4 at the half-time break and looked a chance to cop a hiding when the second half got underway. But they kept South tryless after the break, even though the Red and Whites had scored 3 tries in the first half. The Scorpions threw caution to the wind and, led well by their long-serving hooker and captain Zach Alexander, played some impetuous at times but good attacking football to register 2 touchdowns after the spell. Centre Ward Snowden kicked 5 goals in the match and could be rated as unlucky not to have kicked them to victory. south too, they may have classed themselves stiff not to have snatched a win. It was a pretty good game. Look at this for a great solo try by centre Alan Williams.
Got more steps than Fred Astaire, this bloke, I tell you.
The dirt flew as the second day's action in the Tri-Series for off-roaders took place. This form of motor racing is the most recent edition and is becoming more popular and demanding by the year. The Newcastle area boasts Yokohama teammates Neville Boys and Harold Gould, who currently lead in the Australian Championships. The wild-looking machines reach and keep up some quick speeds through some rough country. The local course with its uphill and downhill legs is highly regarded. Kempsey drivers Mark Trees and Doug O'Connor took first and second position, with Tony Guy of Newcastle third in the big race. On the mountain, 250 carts turned up for the second of 5 heats in the New South Wales Grand Prix Series. Karting has come a long way from the days of 2-stroke lawnmower motors and homegrown frames to become a sophisticated form of motor racing. In fact, the top-flight modern machine is a scaled-down Formula 1 racer with a high-speed capability. Former world champion Nelson Piquet and many other top-flight drivers graduated from these little flyers. Yesterday's meeting was marred by a bad accident that saw a cart lose brakes and career across midfield before becoming airborne. Driver Kerry Pearsall of Sydney was later taken to the Royal Newcastle Hospital with head and chest injuries.
The Act provides for 3 classes of licences. These are shotguns and powerheads, including spear guns, rimfire rifles, rimfire combinations and air rifles, and any other rifle or combination. The main differences are that those people with guns on properties, in the home, and air rifles will now need to be tested for their licence. All applicants will need to pass the test on safety of firearms, and with a 14-day waiting period before a licence is issued. Those between 10 and 17 years of age will sit a modified test for a miner's permit and will still be required to use their firearm under the supervision of a licensed shooter. Newcastle Police's Divisional Education Officer, Sergeant David Stewart.
Persons that currently hold a shooter's licence under the previous legislation will be allowed to use those until they expire. But people that don't possess a shooter's licence and possess firearms will urgently need to attend a police station, obtain some literature in relation to questions that they might be asked, and organise themselves a shooter's licence quickly.
This act has been brought in very quickly. Are police going to have time to cope?
I don't say that it was brought in too quickly, but it wasn't a lot of time for us. We'll manage.
How much...
People in and around Charlestown have been hoping for some time that the area's traffic problem would be alleviated when the Western Bypass is completed. Hopes that that will be soon received a setback when member for Charlestown Richard Face was informed by Mr Brereton that the bypass has been put down the government's list of priorities and won't be finished before 1992. It's part of the GMR's Newcastle Bridge and Road Improvement Program. Section 1 will start in the south, running off the Pacific Highway at Windale, through bush behind Charlestown and run through the Garden suburb. According to Richard Face, more than 70,000 cars pass through Charlestown each day, and it's that sort of traffic that has left local businessmen angry about the delay and the fact that there is still no starting date.
I think Charlestown is the fastest growing commercial centre in the whole of Newcastle, and I believe it needs the chance to continue to grow. That means I think that we've got to get the traffic out of the centre of Charlestown.
And then distribute the traffic with other roads?
The bypass road as it is planned takes it well out of residential areas, right around Charlestown. It'll be easier for anybody that is not stopping at Charlestown to take that road and continue through.
The decision to delay the construction of the Western Bypass has also angered residents in suburbs around Charlestown like Carrington and Whitebridge. They say that now much of the peak hour traffic that is now avoiding Charlestown is going through their areas.
I elected to live on a suburban street, in a suburban street. What's happened is that I now find that I'm virtually living on a alternative arterial road. It is a grave problem. I'm amazed that there's not already more accidents in the area, in school children progressing to and from work. A large percentage of the traffic which flows down past my place in Kenneby Avenue should really be travelling on an arterial road.
Officers will be available each day until next Wednesday to answer questions from shoppers. Among the police vehicles on display is a turbocharged Mitsubishi Cordia, which is being used as a transition highway vehicle until new Commodores designed to overcome the problems associated with unleaded petrol come into service. And if you're small enough, this display offers the chance to become acquainted with the law while enjoying a ride in the seat of power. As the theme of the week is Metro Police, the displays aim to educate the public to become a more aware community-based force, such as experienced with the Neighbourhood Watch program. Also on display were a few old-style tools of police enforcement. And if you've often wondered what it feels like on the inside, police headquarters will be open to the public for inspection this Saturday.